So Che gets clocked by someone in a focus group. There's this focus group that the studio put together to unpack what they saw about Che's new show. And if they like it, if they believe that it's going to be a good show. And there's one in particular who is a queer person. I'm not sure if they're non binary, but queer person who absolutely clocked Che, saying all the things that we feel about them, basically. And I love that. It was so funny. But it was truth serum, really. But I think that Cynthia Nixon, who directed this episode, did a great job directing. I think she did a great job directing. I like her use of light. The title of this episode is called entitled Trick or Treat. So it takes place in October, and her use of light, because in fall, even especially in New York, how dark it is and gloomy somewhat. And I think that she captured that lighting so well. I don't know if she if she shot this in the fall, but those exterior shots I think looked really good, looked believable. But I I like the direction that Cynthia Nixon took, as she captured a better episode than the previous four in season two. In this season, I think she did a decent job. This was her directorial debut, as it were. I hope we're getting closer to the point where they're going to break up. Now, in this episode, they take a break. In the vein of Ross and Rachel, they take a break because Che. So Miranda is being very supportive of Che because Che is heartbroken that the focus group told them what they really needed to hear. It's dated the show, especially that episode. It was all over the place. It was a mess, really, and it really wasn't what they wanted. They wanted this show, this sitcom, this pilot to be more rooted in reality, and it wasn't. They got a lot of notes from the studio, so it didn't feel authentic to them. So that's what that whole bit was about. But I love that they got gathered. I'm talking about clocked. It was so funny. Um, and then Miranda and Che are going through this scheduling conflict. Che stays up all night, and Miranda, because she is in a grad school, she is in school, I should say. She she has to get up really early to go to Brooklyn because she believes she has to take care of her adult son. I get that because he was like really on the edge last a couple of episodes ago. So she wants to be there for him. And so she is commuting, and she tries to sleep while Che and their friends are up all night playing games, smoking weed, and that whole bit. Then we get to Charlotte. I just don't understand why Charlotte's storyline is so boring. And I say that because she has the relationship that she always dreamed of with Harry. Very loving and understanding relationship with two kids. Like, she has the ideal relationship she was always dreaming about, but it is coming off as so boring. It really is so boring. Her and Harry and the kids. But she does get a taste of being a stage mom because Rock is discovered at a skate park by an ad exec for Ralph Lauren. And so they At first Harry is like, no, we don't want her to be a model because you know how that world can get really exploitative. He's an attorney, so you can imagine. And but Charlotte is like, well, I did some modeling in high school, and it's fun, and I think it will be great for Rock. And Rock is really excited. So after investigating, they find that this is legit, and so they shoot a Ralph Lauren campaign. But it's just her her storyline is just, I don't know. They need to step it up somewhat. Um, but that was them. Lisa didn't have a lot of storyline this week, but the first scene, they did license. It's a Halloween party or masquerade party for Halloween. The costumes weren't giving, um, but Lisa, the dance floor is looking so tragic. They licensed "Creep" by TLC and "Super Freak" by by Rick James rather, and Lisa's the only one who's really getting it on. Like the dance floor looks so tragic for such good music. Because he's running for city comptroller and thinks he'll be, captured on film acting silly and not taking the responsibility seriously. I don't know who they're writing this show. I don't get it, but he didn't want to wear his Hamilton. He's in Hamilton. He plays George Washington in Hamilton more specifically, and he didn't want to wear it. He wears it at the end, but I mean, this is a better show, but it's still drab. And so to be drab and be better than the four previous episodes is not saying, I mean, I guess it's very telling. Ugh, it's so exhausting recapping the show, but I did like that Carrie met someone that she almost killed. So she SEMA has this. She meets this guy in the bar scene. They were at this like really luxe bar. She, Naya, and Carrie were at a bar to pick up some men. I won't say quality men because oh god, they were there to pick up some wealthy men that are time enough for them. And she meets this man who is trying to get his line of liquor in the bar. They go home together. Dr. Naya finally says yes, and she has a one night stand too, finally. But Seema takes this guy home, and he can't get it up. He needs he needs aids. He needs a device to get it up, and he's like, hopefully you're not offended because every other woman is. But they try to make these scenes funny. It's not funny. They're very awkward and uncomfortable, and I think when I'm laughing, I'm just being charitable because it's really not funny. But because I think it's not rooted in authenticity for the characters. These women who are writing these scripts seem so out of touch with women of a particular age. They seem to be so out of touch with not just these characters, but writing for women of a particular age because I guess their idea of these situations that they're putting these women in, they feel like they're going to resonate with the audience that's watching the show. And it feels just out of touch. It feels dated and archaic and unfunny. But at any rate, Carrie meets, well, she's talking to Seema because Seema is telling her about this penis pump guy. And Carrie is so shocked that she stops in the bike lane. You can tell that Cynthia Nixon directed this and wanted to get this in. She ran for governor of New York and lost miserably to now disgraced Governor Cuomo. but you can just tell because she threw the bike lane in. You know, bike lanes weren't in, they weren't a part of Sex and the City. But at any rate, so Carrie causes this tech guy who, by the way, his name's Peter Harmon. He's married to our fave, Mariska Hargitay, our queen from SVU. And he was in season 5 of Sex and the City as this like he was like a bad he I think he had like a walk on role or whatever, and he was somebody else, but he shows up in this one as this tech guy named George, middle-aged tech guy who is trying to sell his third or fourth app. He's very cute. So I was excited that Carrie, is giving. It did seem kind of charitable though, because I don't think she really liked him or had any chemistry. I think she felt sorry for him and was about to throw him some, but he's so distracted with trying to get ready for this presentation. But at any rate, she breaks his right wrist. So um, because of this bike accident, she walks him to urgent care. Like, this is a mess. She thinks he's broke, and then she goes to his loft. Listen, she tries to throw him some, but his business partner, is like, you don't have time for this. Like, he's a basketball coach. You don't have time for this. Oh, gosh. Okay, anyway, we're getting Aiden next week, so, okay. And I feel sorry for Aiden. Oh gosh, imagine what he's gonna have to go through in this season. But anyway, oh God, and I think with Aiden, Aiden is married, which we remember from not just from Sex and the City, but from the movie Sex and the City 2. He's married with kids. And in this scene, this episode next week, we're going to see that he may be divorcing, and his kids are calling him when he is um, with Carrie on a date. He and Steve were business partners. Didn't they have a furniture store or something? They had a bar, furniture store or something. No, a furniture store. And they meet up with Steve, and then Brady is going to be in the scene. And it just looks like a boring scene. And it just looks like Carrie is not really here for Aiden, married with kids Aiden. So that's going to be, it looks like it's going to be a disaster. I mean, really, honestly, Carrie has only had, in all of the years of Sex and the City, in the movies or whatever, she's only had 2 good guys. And I'm saying 2. One for sure is Aiden. I think she burnt that bridge. He needs to leave her alone. And the second one, I believe, was Mikhail Baryshnikov's character. I think he was really good for Carrie, but as you can remember, they were in Paris, and he did something. He was like trying to get ready for his installation, and they had this fight that was not as big as you would think. So they break up, but she meets, I think he hit her though, didn't he? Or he pushed her or something. So they did that. It was so forced because they wanted her to get back with Big, because I guess they feel like that's the one thing women want, to be saved by someone who treated us horribly. Isn't that the formula for every rom-com? This horrible guy is horrible for the girl, but after a brief separation, she realizes this is the one for her. I mean, that's basically what Big is. He was so horrible to Carrie, even in the movie. He was so horrible to Carrie, but yet he ended up being the one. Listen. You know a man wrote that, right? So the highlight of the show, Dr. Naya was back, but it was very brief. I loved her costume. She was Eartha Kitt, and she looked good in her costume. But as SEMA said, it was wasted on this masquerade ball Halloween party. It was wasted, SEMA said, and that's why they took her to the bar. The costumes otherwise are boring because they really don't put any effort in it. I'm starting to question the costume designers too. Like, we really need Patricia Field back. I'm really beginning to question the costume designers. These Halloween costumes were tragic. Like, Charlotte and Harry came as Kerry Russell and Matthew Reese from The Americans. It was so boring. Carrie went as Helen Gurley Brown, the creative director, writer, and CEO of Cosmopolitan, launched Cosmopolitan. It was a mess. It was so boring. Ugh. It would have been super boring had it not had licensed music from Rick James, Super Freak, and TLC Creep. And Lisa, who came as the Bride of Frankenstein, looked really good on the dance floor. The dance floor was otherwise tragic because they had extras that were not into this because the extras just didn't know how to get down off this music. So it was kind of tragic. This is just. This was, listen, episode 5 of season 2, Trick or Treat, was a better episode, but that's not saying much. It's not saying much. The bar is so low. There are 11 episodes in this season, so next week's episode, Bomb Cyclone, I believe we're getting Aiden. I don't believe that we're getting Kim Cattrall until the 11th episode, the final episode, the finale. I wish it were a little earlier because she has so much cleaning up to do. Samantha Jones has so much cleaning up to do, but it's not her job. She's not the cleanup woman. At any rate, the first 5 episodes of season 2 of And Just Like That are currently streaming on Max. If you're not doing anything else, you might as well just throw it on.